Why do the crazies love AI? I've got a great story for you today. Recently, I was traveling with some friends, and one of the friends brought his brother along. As it turns out, his brother works for one of the big three LLM companies, and he works in their corporate security group. So I said to him, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Oh, my group, we monitor prompts for bad stuff." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I didn't know that still was done with humans." He goes, "Oh, yeah." And so I said, "Of course. Tell me about some of the things you've seen people asking your LLM." So here we go. First, how to make a biological weapon. So that was not reassuring that people are asking LLMs how to do this. He said this particular thing is not common, but it's not uncommon. And of course, this LLM is globally accessible, except probably in China. And so you have bad actors from all over the world asking this question. And it's up to his group, fortunately, to prevent the LLM from giving a response to a question like that. So basically what they do is create rules that anyone asking with a term like biological weapon or those two words combined gets no response. That's good to know because obviously these weapons are even more dangerous than nuclear weapons because nuclear weapons by and large are under large government control, at least so far, but a biological weapon theoretically could be constructed anywhere with the right equipment, and we certainly don't want that. So that was really interesting that was the first thing he said. Of course, people ask about how to make nuclear weapons, but the equipment to do that is super expensive, not easily acquired, and therefore it's much harder to make a nuclear weapon than a biological weapon. We can be glad for that also. So what's next, I asked him. The next thing he said was really disappointing, but not surprising. Make me child pornography. Now, clearly, this exists all over the internet. Honestly, you used to hear more about groups of people being arrested for this than you hear these days. But nevertheless, the big LLM companies are blocking as much of this material as they can, which is really, really good. Because the way LLMs work now, you can take a picture of any kid and make pornography out of it. The tools exist, so they do need to stop it. Who knows, you might even see a sim of your own kid used this way. Unfortunate. So what's next? People submitting prompts to create cyber attack tools, expected and probably frequent. And of course, they want to block as much of that as they can. And of course, they also refer folks like that to the government from wherever the prompt came from. Because it's well known that AI can be used both for cyber defense and for cyber attack. So there's lots of bad actors out there trying to get more and more sophisticated tools for cyber attacks. And these corporate security groups at the LLM companies are trying to block as much of that as they can. So what's next? Well, he said, people digging for information that can result in a terrorist attack on a structure or something like that. I've been unfortunate enough twice in my life to hear two major terrorist attacks here in the United States live in real time. The first was years ago. I was on the freeway and I listened to the news channel back in those days, and I heard the Oklahoma City Federal Building bombing unfold in real time. Most unfortunate. And then, of course, I heard 9/11 in real time because, same reason, I was listening briefly on my commute to news radio in New York City on 9/11. I was late for work because, oddly enough, that was my oldest kid's first day of preschool. So I was late to work and I heard when I turned on the news radio, the traffic helicopter guy was on, and he was saying, we're over the George Washington Bridge now. Traffic is normally heavy. And then he goes all of a sudden, wait a minute, there's been an explosion at the World Trade Center. We're going to head down there to see what happened. Well, we all know what happened from there. So this, folks, is quite real, this activity by the corporate security groups at these LLMs, all too real. So it was just sheer luck that I ended up talking to this guy, because this friend of mine brought his brother this day while we were traveling, and he just happened to work for one of the big 3 LLM companies outside of China. And he happened to work in the corporate security group and told me all this stuff. I was fascinated. I had no idea that human beings were still doing this, but I'm glad. Eventually, I suppose this will all be done by a specialized AI tool or an AGI. But clearly, it's good to know that there's some curb on harmful activities on these LLMs. So thanks so much for watching this video. If you like it, please like, subscribe, and share. Also, we really appreciate your help in that way, because that greatly helps with the algorithm. And finally, please support us on Patreon or buy me a coffee. Your financial support, even in small amounts, $1 a month, $2 a month, helps us build the channel further, and we want to bring you more resources later this year, early next year, that we need your financial support to help bring those to you. And those resources are specifically targeted at helping you change your career into something that's relatively protected against disruptive technology, including AI, robotics, sensors, etc. So thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.